Am I the asshole for not stopping a magazine editor from announcing my work to my entire family at a reunion where my aunt had just introduced me as the one we never talk about?
Welcome to Popcornrest story. Today's story is about being quietly erased in your own family, only to be revealed in the most unexpected way as a reunions when no one saw the truth coming. A last prime of labels is about to be questioned. Let's get started.
There was no name tag for me at the registration table. I noticed it when I arrived. Every other family member had a printed name tag in a little plastic holder. 42 of them, ranged alphabetically. I found the F section. There was nothing there with my name. I found a blank one and wrote it myself, Faith. Then I went inside and found my seat, which was at the children's table. I'm 34 years old. My family has always organized itself around a simple hierarchy. My sister Jolene is the pretty one. My brother Caleb is the smart one. From the time I was approximately 6 years old, the ugly one. This was not a label anyone assigned explicitly in a single conversation. It was assembled over years from accumulated small things. The dress that was never bought for me because it would be wasted. The family photos I was cropped out of because the composition looked better without me. The birthday celebrations that somehow always became about my brother, who shared a birth month with me and whose achievements were always more worth announcing. My mom died and never explained any of this. She was simply colder to me than she was to my siblings, consistently and without apparent awareness that this was something she was doing. I grew up understanding that I was less than my siblings in her accounting, and I could never determine why. Asterisk I found out years later. When I was going through my dad's study after his stroke, I came across a file folder in the bottom drawer. Inside it were 8 years of printed articles, photographs, and clippings, every mention of my work I could think of and several I had forgotten. He had been collecting them, quietly without telling me, adding to the folder year after year. Asterisk, and in the back of the same drawer was a letter he had never sent me. 3 paragraphs. He had been trying to explain something. Asterisk, I found out from that letter that my mom had studied architecture before she had my sister. She had been good at it, apparently. She had dropped out when she got pregnant and never went back. She had spent 30 years watching what she gave up, and I had spent 30 years becoming the thing she walked away from. Asterisk, I wasn't the ugly one. I was the mirror. I left at 18 on an architecture scholarship. I became a preservation architect. I specialize in historic courthouses, libraries, post offices, buildings in small towns that have been abandoned and are disappearing. I have saved 11 of them across the states. I have won awards. I have been written about in trade publications. My family, when the topic of my work came up at all, described it as a hobby. A nice thing I did with my spare time. The annual family reunion was last Saturday. 40 people, the full extended family. My aunt's house, my Aunt Patricia introduced me to a woman who was standing near the entrance. She said, "This is the one we never talk about." She said it pleasantly, as if it were a charming family quirk. The woman she was introducing me to was named Nora. I had met her twice before, both times professionally. She is the senior editor of American Preservation, which is the most widely read journal in my field. She had driven 2 hours to bring me the final draft of an article for my approval before publication. I had not told my family she was coming. Nora looked at my aunt. Then she looked at me. She said, "Oh, they don't know what you do." I said, "They know I work in architecture." She said, "But they don't know." I said, "No." She was quiet for a moment. Then she asked if I wanted to go find somewhere to sit. I said sure. We sat at the children's table. Am I the asshole for what I decided to let happen next? I want to be clear that I did not plan this. I did not invite Nora knowing the reunion would be today. She had called me that morning to say she was passing through and could she bring the draft in person. I said yes without thinking about the timing. But when my aunt said what she said and Nora looked at me and asked whether she could say something to the room, I did not stop her. I said, "Sure. Is that an asshole move?" Letting something play out that I knew would be uncomfortable for people who have made me uncomfortable my entire life. Too long. Didn't read. Family calls me the ugly one since childhood. Seats me at the children's table at a reunion with her. Self-written name tag at 34. My aunt introduces me to a woman as the one we never talk about. That woman is the senior editor of the most respected journal in my field, who came to get my sign-off on my upcoming cover story. I let her say something to the room. Am I the asshole? At it, Nora just raised her hand, and the room went quiet. I'm going to sit here and let this happen. Update coming. Edit 2. I need to be somewhere quiet for a while. Update tomorrow. My dad is sitting under the oak tree by the back fence, and I need to go see him.
Honestly, reading this feels like, the kind of uncomfortable in a slow, heavy way. Like you watch someone quietly gets erased and their own family, and nobody even thinks twice about it. The name tag thing alone already hits a bit weird, but then the children's table at 34 just make it feel more and more from in the longer you stay with it. Honestly, the scariest part is how normal everyone acts. They're all using it like the one we never talk about, like is some cute family inside joke. It's actually so cult, and you can't help but get distraught watching her pull up this huge accomplishment while her family literally coordinated a silent treatment to retain it didn't happen. So now I'm kind of tense thinking about what's coming next. No one really knows who she, and that silent right before she speaks feels like everything is about to shift. I'm honestly curious. It is the moment everything gets is small, or is it going to get even more awkward before anything makes sense? So let's move to updates 1 to see what's going on.
Update 1. The next day, Nora stood up. She said she wanted to introduce herself since no one had done it properly. She said she was the senior editor at American Preservation magazine, which she described briefly for those who didn't know it. She said she had come to bring the final proof of an article to the person who was going to be on their October cover. She put photographs on the table, photographs of my work, 8 of them, printed on good paper, the kind of images that show up in publications and award presentations. A courthouse in Mississippi that had been scheduled for demolition and is now a cultural center. A Carnegie Library in Iowa that had been boarded up for 15 years. A post office in Vermont that the town had been trying to save for a decade before I got there. She spread them across the table and said, Faith Mercer is one of the most important preservation architects working in America right now. She saved 11 buildings across for states. She has 2 national awards. And she's going to be on our October cover. She paused. Then she said, and she's your family. I assumed you'd know. The room was very quiet, my mom said. In the kind of voice people use when they are constructing something quickly. We've always been so proud of Faith. Nora looked at her as she didn't say anything for a moment. Then she said she was sure that was true. My Aunt Patricia said she was just kidding around when she introduced me. That it was a family joke. Nora said she understood. She said it in a tone that made it clear she did not understand, in the particular way that people make clear they are not going to pursue the matter further, but are also not going to pretend they believe what they're being told. My Uncle Ray, who has been married to my aunt for 23 years and who I have never heard raise his voice at her or anyone else, said, Patricia, sit down. She sat down that my sister started crying. I don't know exactly what she was crying about, whether it was embarrassment or something else, but she cried and excused herself, and her husband went after her. Mom found me about 20 minutes later in a corner near the kitchen. She said I had humiliated the family. She said I could have introduced Nora myself, privately, without making a scene. She said whatever I thought had happened in this family, this was not the way to handle it. I said, I didn't make myself the ugly one in this family. You did that. You made sure everyone knew it, and you never once explained it to me. She didn't say anything. I said, I found out why, eventually. I'm not angry about it anymore, but I'm also not going to apologize for today. She walked away as my dad was sitting under the oak tree at the back of the yard when I went to find him. He had not come inside for most of the afternoon. He looked old in a way I hadn't noticed before. Or maybe I had noticed and hadn't let myself register it. He said he was sorry. He said he should have said something a long time ago and that he had been a coward about it and he knew it. I sat down next to him. I took my graduation photo out of my bag. I carry it in my bag because it's small and because for years I had nowhere to put it. No wall at home where it would be welcome. I handed it to him. I said, put this somewhere people can see it. He held it and looked at it for a long time. When I stood to leave, he stood up too and hugged me. He didn't say anything. Neither did I on the drive home. My phone buzzed. A text from my dad. For words, always proud of you. I pulled over for a minute. Then I drove home.
Okay, this update honestly feels like one of those moments where everything that was in life was never said, just gets dragged into the light in the most uncomfortable way possible. Like Nora doesn't just introduce her. She basically forced the entire room to re-evaluate a person they doubt they already understood. And you can almost feel the panic kicking in from the family size when the truth doesn't match their family narrative. While the worth lent in their towns incredible, they went from defensive denial and fake fryer spray into absolute silence and damage control. And that silence speaks volumes. It's clear the mother reactions isn't the belief. It's the chilling realization that she's finally been caught and no amount of speeding the truth can save her now. But the image I keep coming back to is the dad standing under the oak tree. That feels like the true emotional powerhouse of the entire story. It is squired, heavy moment where everything else just fall away. I don't know what comes next, but I feel like whatever after 2 is, it's not going to be about the family anymore. It's going to be about what she designs to do with all of this. So let's move to after 2.
Update the final 3 months later. The October issue came out 2 weeks ago. My photograph is on the cover. I'm standing in front of the Mississippi courthouse, the one that took 3 years to fight for, the one that almost didn't make it. My dad sent me a photograph the morning the issue released. It was a picture of his living room wall. The magazine cover framed, hanging in the center above the mantel where I have never seen anything of mine displayed. No caption. Just a photo. My mom has not reached out since the reunion. My sister sent a text about 6 weeks after, short, a little stiff, something about hoping I was well. I replied the same way. We are not close and I don't know if we will be. What I know is that the text was something she chose to send when she didn't have to, and I'm filing that away for later. My aunt has not contacted me. My uncle sent a card after the issue came out. He said he had enjoyed seeing my work. It was not much, but it was something from someone who has never said a word to me before, so I kept it, Nora, and I have stayed in touch. The article generated more response than either of us anticipated. There are 2 new projects I'm considering as a result. A theater in Ohio and a market building in North Carolina that have both been sitting vacant for longer than they should have. I'm based in Georgia right now for a library. Project that's taken up most of the last 4 months. It's a small library in a small town that the county was going to demolish to put in a parking structure. We stopped that. The building is going to be a library again. This is what I do. I find things that have been abandoned, and I make sure they don't disappear. I have done this professionally for 8 years, and I did not fully understand until recently how much of that was personal. My dad calls on Wednesdays, not long calls. He asks about the current project, and I tell him, and he asks follow-up questions that show he has been paying attention to things I've said before. He has always been paying attention. He just kept it in a folder in a drawer for a long time. I understand that better now than I did before. I was never the ugly one. I was just in the wrong room. I'm in different rooms now. Rooms where the buildings are worth. Saving and the people who show up have driven 2 hours to be there, and the name tags have my name on them. Not the asshole, obviously, but I want to say something. To anyone who has been placed in a roll-in, the family that has nothing to do with who they actually are. The label is not yours to carry. Someone put it on you because they needed somewhere to put something that belonged to them. Put it down. Go find the right room to long. Didn't read. October issue came out. I'm on the cover. My dad sent me a photo of it framed above the mantel in his living room. The first thing of mine that has ever been displayed there. No caption. Mom hasn't been in touch. Sister sent a stiff text. I replied the same way. Uncle Ray sent a card. Nora and I are in touch to new projects in consideration. Currently in Georgia saving a library from a parking structure. Dad calls on Wednesdays. He's always been paying attention. I was never the ugly one. Just in the wrong room.
Finishing this story honestly leave me with that quiet, slightly heavy feeling you get when something has been off for a long time, but nobody ever said it out loud. At first, it all feels softer, like just as distant family dynamic, not as serious. But the more you see with it, the more uncomfortable it becomes, because it's not random at all. Is this long-term habit of assigning someone a fixed role and just never updating it, even when the reality has clearly moved on? What stands out is how completely she was estranged from the family narrative. It wasn't a theatrical renditions. This were an emotional filter. they didn't scream at her. They should systematically turn her out until she became entirely invisible to them. Until she become entirely invisible to them. That actually fuels war in some ways because it makes you question how long someone can live like that's wives do, functioning normally outside with. It's a bit unsettling when you think about it. Then the Nora moment hits like a quiet reset button. Not explosive, but enough to make everyone suddenly aware that their version of events doesn't match reality anymore. And I can't stand all will feel less awkward step afterward. People's rambling to revive their tone, some too lays, some not at all. But the ending feels different. Less about confrontations, more like emotional distance finally turning into rarity. And I don't know, it's kind of, he's in a calm way too, like relief mixed with a bit of sadness. She doesn't survive for a place anymore. She just leaves the wrong one and keeps going somewhere she was actually meant to be seen. And let me know what you guys think about this one, because I genuinely want to hear the dust from your guy. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe Popcorn Review Story, and we will see the extra next one. Goodbye!